Good day and welcome to this session on requests for quotations. By the end of this session, you should be able to explain request for quotation, outline the process for request for quotation, and mention the advantages and disadvantages of request for quotation. So request for quotation is also termed as prudent shopping, and it is a procurement method where the purchaser requests quotations from as many suppliers as possible through direct invitation. So it should be noted that the key word here is it is through a direct invitation from these suppliers. So in this method, suppliers are directly contacted to quote the products as well as the corresponding prices which they are offering these products. And it should be noted that given the nature of this method, it doesn't involve a lot of suppliers. It involves a few number of suppliers who are invited to quote the products that they have in their catalog and the corresponding prices that these products are being sold. Because of the direct invitation involved, requests for quotations are usually not advertised, and the institution or the procurement entity selects suppliers from their supplier database and they throw an invitation to them, requiring them to submit their price quotations for the products that the organization requires. And because of the nature of this, the request for quotation can be seen as an organization asking a supermarket for a given number of items and asking them to provide the prices that each of these items are selling for. That is how a typical request for quotation process is undertaken, and it is suitable for procuring readily available off-the-shelf goods or standard specification items of low value. So you cannot use request for quotations for high value items, and you cannot use request for quotations for complex and scarce items. So the process for requesting for quotations for suppliers. If the value of the request is within the price quotation threshold, the procuring entity is required to select suppliers from their supplier database. Then they will proceed to prepare the request for quotation documents. And after preparing the request for quotation document, they would invite suppliers using this document. And this document would outline what they require, and then the suppliers would respond to this request for quotation document by assigning price or determining the prices at which the requests of the buyer are supposed to be priced or are supposed to cost. Then the responses from suppliers are received on the date and time scheduled for receipt, and this is usually stipulated in the request for quotation document. So the date and time for sending or making available responses are usually stated in the request for quotation document. Then, after receiving the responses from suppliers, you evaluate the offers of the suppliers and then obtain approval for recommendation from the approval author or from the appropriate authority. So in this instance, if there is a head of procurement, you have to obtain approval from them as to which price quotation should be selected, and then who meets the most advantageous or most economically advantageous criteria. Then based on the recommendations by the authority, you award the contract to the successful supplier. So the advantages of request for quotation is that it is faster as compared to open tendering, because you don't go through the rigorous process of inviting tenders from a lot of suppliers, and you don't go through the process of screening a lot of tender documents. It offers a high probability of response to the request for quotation because they are all likely to respond to the request for quotation with their prices. And it is also likely that at the end of the day, the entity will get the most suitable supplier to perform the contract. Then finally, processing cost is less expensive compared to open tendering, obviously. The disadvantages of request for quotation include it can be discriminatory since the entity selects their own preferred suppliers from their data set or their database. Then it is less competitive compared to open tendering. And the method may be abused because in the end it is likely that only known suppliers will be engaged and others will be ignored. So in this session, you have learned about the request for quotation, the process for request for quotation, and the advantages and disadvantages of request for quotation. Thank you.